Hey artists, today we are tackling faces or portraits, portraiture, and in particular a self-portrait where you want to look at yourself using a mirror, not a photo of yourself, but actually your face. So you could prop this up in a way that's comfortable for you to just glance at it. And a lot like in other life drawings, you want to spend a lot of your time really observing you. So getting all of this comfortable and ready to draw is super important. When you're getting set up to draw a face, it's super helpful to just have a step-by-step approach and to know some of the proportions. And so I'm going to go through those using this particular image. It might also help you to have a ruler handy just to divide up the symmetry that's in our face, right? To the left and to the right, and in some ways, top to bottom, there is a lot of almost math and proportional things to know. So step one, don't try to draw your whole head. Instead, just start with a circle. So that's gonna be kind of from the top of your skull, and we'll come down around to just under your nose. It's very challenging to draw a perfect circle, but just do sort of a confident, as best you can, circle, right? Once you've got that, we add the chin or the lower half of the face below. Now this jawline or chin is custom to everyone. So again, it's really important that you look at your chin in the mirror and you're figuring out what those proportions may be. I would say that the circle, whatever size it is, the chin shape should be about half. So if I come here and I go about halfway, that seems correct to me. Finally, you're going to also add a neck, and then the neck is another additional half or thereabouts. So a lot like the wrist with your hands, you want to add two open-ended, slightly curving lines for your neck. You want to make sure your neck is wide enough and that it's not looking like a little Q-tip or a stick man. Our neck is very similar to our jaw, but just slightly in. From here, it might be helpful to take your ruler and just divide vertically down the middle of your face so that you have that symmetry. These guidelines can be erased later. And then in between the top of your skull and your chin, you're going to come halfway and draw a line, a horizontal line. Okay? So we have the symmetry of the face. This first line represents our eye line. And then using your fingers, if it helps you, you're going to go halfway again. Usually that's somewhere close to the bottom of that circle. This line here, they always extend past. That's where your nose, but also your ears are going to feel that they end up. Okay? Those have a relationship there. Then halfway again, use the ruler here, so I'm halfway between the nose and the chin. Oh, I was a bit high perhaps. But that is going to give you the mouth or lips. Okay. So you can see when there's no other features, most of what we look at when we're looking at someone's face, it's actually happening in the lower half only. It's really interesting just to notice how much happens only down here. And up here, this might feel like it's a lot of space, but you're gonna add your own hairline to it above the skull and sort of below down into the forehead, and that's gonna make it feel a lot more natural. Okay. When you feel good with your proportions, and definitely keep all of these marked out as you're beginning, now you're gonna work through the features of the face. So eyes, you want them to be, if you made a small little dot, right, it would be about halfway between on this symmetrical line. But if you're looking slightly left or right, they may not be perfectly so. And I like to draw like a rounded circle or the ball, the iris of the eye, and then you can go ahead and you can add the flaps of skin above and below and a second line for an eyelid. So I'm going to repeat that over here. Okay. You might see a little bit of tear ducts. You may notice lines, wrinkles, right? I like to do pupils higher up and larger than you think they need to be. And don't go too crazy doing eyelashes, although all of us have eyelashes. If you're wearing any makeup, it might be emphasizing those slightly more. But you can add those, but don't make them too overpowering. The other thing that helps once you've positioned eyes is checking that they're not too close together or too wide apart. So you almost want to think about an invisible third eye in between. The other thing and the last thing that's really going to help is getting eyebrows or that brow shape or that brow bone defined. So we can imagine that our forehead sits out from the face, and adding eyebrows is really going to help. Okay, so moving on from the eyes, we have our nose. Now, using the symmetry is really helpful here. You want your nostrils to be on this low line, and just look in the mirror, always look in the mirror, sort of get those teardropped nostril shapes. Once you have those two nostrils, on either side you can add these little nasal flaps of skin. You might see some of the bridge of your nose. It might connect, it actually does always connect right up and into eyebrows. So that's kind of worth noticing. And then depending again, looking in the mirror, do you have cartilage, highlights? You can sort of start to get the shape of the nose, but draw what you see. Soon as the nose is done, I would slide over to get your ears in, or at the very least one ear. So if you have longer hair, consider tucking it behind you. And then just really noticing that the top of the ear is going to be where your eye is, and the bottom of the ear where your nose is. So those lines are super helpful. Okay, I'm just going to indicate another ear over here. For the lips, we've drawn this line, and this line represents where your two lips touch or meet. So sometimes that has a curving up or a curving down kind of shape. Sometimes it's slightly open. On the upper lip, there's this dip that we call the Cupid's bow, and you're going to use that center line to help you with it. And on the lower lip, it's often slightly fuller than the upper lip. You might add some wrinkles, some fullness, reflections. Maybe you can see little smiles, but just a relaxed, natural mouth is usually pretty good. Okay, so we've got the features of the face. You can keep adding more and more detail there. But the final things that are really going to help with this portrait is getting our hairline. So noticing that it would be something below this, right? Because this just represents our skull. So coming below, but then also coming above in some sort of capacity, right? And depends on the texture of your hair, curly, wavy, straight, long, short, how you styled it that day. If you're wearing a hat, if you're wearing glasses, if you have piercings or jewelry of any kind, all of those details would come at the very last stage, along with details like clothing. So here's where you're going to want to observe, the neckline of your shirt. You're going to want to draw those shoulders reaching out and down on the page, and just keep looking again in that mirror, getting as much detail as what you can see here onto your sketch. So these proportions are super helpful. Lots of relationships as well. You can check the width of your mouth by dropping down from your eyes, right? We can check our nose to our ears, that third invisible eye, all sorts of useful tips and tricks. And please feel free to ask questions as you go along. The last thing I want you to consider as you begin. Since we're drawing on such a large page, it's very helpful to know that your hand, your spread out hand, is about the same size as your face. So if you hold it up to your face, you can see. When you go to begin that circle, come higher up, not dead center, slightly up. Draw the circle large enough. Right, I'm just gonna go lightly at first. So I'm gonna draw my circle large enough that I'm quite confident a spread out hand would fit within it. And from there, I've left myself more of the page here to add my chin, which again is about halfway. Okay. And my neck, which should be at least another halfway. So this sort of upside down chicken egg shape is the general shape that you want before you begin to divide it. And even using your ruler can be helpful. You can see here I'm the full length of my ruler and always going halfway, halfway again, to have those horizontal divisions. The rest of it is practice, patience, and trusting ourselves. So good luck and have fun.